Well, Pat, no big surprise. Various Heisman boards out of Vegas came out here in the last couple of weeks. And CJ Stroud, plus 250 at the board I'm looking at here. Bryce Young right there with him at plus 285. And then it drops from there. Caleb Williams, the new USC quarterback, and so forth. You talk about a quarterback who needs to step up his game to live up to this billing. DJ Uiagalelei is at plus 2,400, fourth on the board. He threw 9 touchdown passes last season. He was pretty awful in the entire Clemson offense. But getting back to Stroud, do Heismans matter? Does this matter to you? Does this matter to the people that you interact with and the feedback you get from Ohio State fans and college football fans?
Well, it matters to Ryan Day. I mean, he's been very clear the last few years that the standard should be an Ohio State quarterback should be at least a Heisman contender, finalist, be in that conversation. And I think when you have a second-year guy like CJ Stroud, who was a finalist last year, the goal is to at least be a finalist again this year, if not win it. I mean, if Justin Fields doesn't have to play a shortened season, I think it would have been the case with him as well. So, yeah, I definitely think it matters. I mean, I think we're talking about quarterback recruiting. That's another thing that these guys, because it's become such a quarterback-heavy award, these guys are thinking about. And, not that it necessarily translates to the NFL, but I do think you've seen guys get drafted, a Baker Mayfield, for instance, maybe not the prototypical quarterback, but he won the Heisman and put up big numbers. So I think it matters to guys like that. I mean, I know it matters to CJ Stroud as well. He said before the Rose Bowl that him finishing fourth was a motivating factor. He thought he deserved to be higher than that last year. And I think he'll put forth, he's not going to do anything above and beyond to go win it. He's just going to do what he's going to do. And, I've said to you before, Mark, I think just because Bryce Young will have the pressure of being the returning winner and he'll be viewed, in a different light than some of these other quarterbacks, that makes sense for CJ Stroud to be the favorite coming into the season. I think both guys can put up really big numbers in their offense. Obviously they did last year, but CJ Stroud doesn't have to necessarily exceed that expectation of a Heisman winner. He just has to continue to build on what he did last year and continue to run this offense the way he was. I also think it'll help that maybe the receivers aren't as big of names. Obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't think that's fair for a quarterback when you're talking about quarterback awards, but the fact that there aren't 2 returning first-round picks on the offense may change the way people view it. And as I mentioned before, he played 2 fewer games than both of the quarterbacks that were Heisman finalists. So assuming he plays all the games during the regular season and the Buckeyes get back to the Big Ten the Big Ten championship and potentially the college football playoff, I think you're looking at a chance for him to really put up some big numbers.
Yeah, I think I agree that CJ Stroud being the favorite is the smart thing right now. I think voters are reticent to award it to the same guy 2 years in a row because we've seen young guys win it repeatedly over the years and still haven't been able to get that second year going. And I think a lot of that is they already have so much, not necessarily pressure, but you have to top yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult to do. And then the added intrigue of this is you have an Ohio State Buckeye trying to make sure in his own way that Bryce Young doesn't become the second 2-time Heisman winner. So like you're not only trying to go out and win games and win the Heisman, you're trying to keep Archie Griffin as the only 2-time Heisman winner for your school. So it's one of these things where it's shouldn't even be thinking about it, but there's some things riding on it in terms of lore and the ability to say Ohio State is the only place that can do this or has done this. I don't like to trash the Heisman when Steve's around because I believe he is a voter, but since he is off, while it is definitely important to Ohio State and it's definitely important to Ryan Day and it's important to the players, it is categorically wrong that the best players in the nation every year for the last 30 years or whatever, 25, whatever it's been now, have been can only be a quarterback or running back or every once in a while a wide receiver. And Chase Young was the best player in 2019, in my opinion. Orlando Pace was the best player in 1996. Will Anderson had a claim last year, and there have been plenty of other defensive guys, Ndamukong Suh, that were the best players in the nation. And what I get annoyed at is voters who they throw a defensive guy a bone to show that they've got cred. Like, hey, I know I watch everybody, so I had Will Anderson third, and it's like, well, did you watch Will Anderson? No, but I heard he was good, so that's why I put him third. And so I have a problem with a lot of voters that who it's become the quarterback of the number one team first. That's where you go first, of the best team. And then, well, okay, if not this, then this. And it becomes the software that you have in your mind as a voter. And it diminishes the award itself. And I think it has greatly diminished what was once the greatest individual trophy out there. And now it's just the Heisman that goes to the best player on offense, which is usually the quarterback now. And it's just, how often can that be true, that the quarterback for the number one team or whatever, the top 5 team, is actually the best player? And it can't be. And so if this cannot be true, then your award becomes a bit of a sham.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Mark, you threw Gary's comment up here about the only award is the national championship. I think everybody would agree with that. While Ryan Day has made it clear that Ohio State quarterbacks should be contending for the Heisman Trophy, that only means that he's leading the offense well enough that they should also be in contention for the national championship. I think the only places where that doesn't matter are schools that aren't going to contend for a national championship. I mean, it's been a while since you've seen a guy win a Heisman, but like a Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, despite them upsetting Alabama, they weren't really in contention to win a national championship that year. So that was kind of their national championship. But at a place like Ohio State, yeah, the national championship is number one. Having a Heisman winner is kind of a cherry on top and means that you're doing things the right way, probably on offense, as Tony pointed out.
Didn't Tim Tebow win it in 2007 with 3 losses that year?
Yep. Lost a 4th in the bowl game to Michigan.
Oh, no, that was the year later. Never mind.
But in between the 2 national championships, Tim Tebow wins the Heisman. Robert Griffin, his Baylor team wasn't the best.
Right. Yeah.
9-4-ish. I believe something in that range.
Cam Newton, I don't know that Auburn was the best, but he led them to a national title, a Heisman. Like, he certainly earned that one.
Yeah. Yeah. What you just stated, Tony, I cannot state any better, even though I have a penchant to do so and add on. I don't need to there. I say the same thing all the time. This is not an award for all football players for the best football player in America. It's a skill position award on offense.
If you just look at it, okay, offense, defense, 2 different things, 2 sides of one coin. If you flip a coin 50 times and 49 times it comes up heads, there's something wrong with the coin. That coin is weighted. It is not a legit coin. And the Heisman Trophy is weighted. It is not a legit trophy. Try to flip it. It won't land on its feet.
And I think people have started to realize that. I mean, you look at the numbers for the Heisman Trophy show, it's not what it used to be. And even just from our perspective, the stories we write about the Heisman still get a lot of interest, but not what they did at one point in time.
You also get that kind of perspective when you listen to old football coaches, football analysts, scouts, when they start looking at a football game or start talking about talent or who's the best guy out there. They'll bring up guys usually on the line that nobody's thinking of, nobody's recognizing. They'll be like, the best player in the field's that left tackle right there. Who? Oh, yeah. Why? We don't really have any numbers to back that up, so it's difficult to go there.
Well, and I'll just throw myself under the bus. Like, when you're voting for all Big Ten stuff, like all Big Ten teams, and you have to come up with 12 offensive linemen, and it's like, how much Big Ten am I watching that I can, tell you who the best players on the offensive line are? Like, not enough, because you're covering a game that takes up almost an entire day from the time you get there to the time you leave. And so I think there's a lot of that going on, where if the stats aren't there, I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the perfect example of this, because he ended up 3rd team all Big Ten. Until like the day after the vote, when I pointed this out, then because if you go to the Big Ten stats, he was not listed, and he was not listed on the Big Ten stats. So voters that go to the stats to see who should they vote for, and there's not a guy, he's not listed, he's out of your mind. And so like I pointed this out on Twitter, and like the next day he was added. And this was
Wow.
like after the vote, like
You have some clout.
well, yes, I didn't want to say it, but it's just an example of the stats make it easier because we can't watch everything. Guys can't watch everything. And so like there are no offensive line stats. And when you have a receiver like Jackson Smith and Jigba who puts up a bunch of numbers, and granted, he put up big numbers well past the vote, but when he's not listed on the Big Ten's own site because of an oversight, and then you have voters going there to see who they should be voting for, and he's not listed, yeah, he's going to end up third team.